Hey there drone fans, Rick here again from Drone Valley. In today's clip, I'd like to review the brand new audio adapter for the DJI Osmo Action. Now, I know this is an accessory that a lot of us have been waiting a long time for DJI to release, and I'm thrilled that it's finally on the market because it provides a very easy way of connecting an external microphone up to this amazing action camera. Now, having said that, I use the Osmo Action pretty much every day that I'm out filming. It's with me everywhere I go. And honestly, the internal microphones on this thing are really good at reproducing audio, especially when I turn on the wind noise reduction feature. It really captures clear audio if I'm close to it. But there are times where I'd like to use maybe a lapel mic or a wireless setup when I'm further away from it to really improve the audio. And by using this adapter, I can now connect all those microphones up to the product. So what I'd like to do in this clip is a few things. First off, I'll explain specifically what this product is about, how you use it, how you connect it up, what kind of microphones you can use. But I also want to spend a little bit more time explaining how it compares to maybe other audio adapters on the market. I've got a Osmo Pocket over here, I've got a Hero 7 Black over here. Both of their audio adapters are there as well, because building something like this really takes a lot of engineering prowess to put something together in a small package that'll turn standard analog audio into a digital signal coming in through the USB-C connection. So once I explain the differences, I'll also explain the kind of microphones you need to use with this, because there are a bunch of different microphones on the market, and there are basically three types of microphones that you can use. It's either a TS, TRS, or TRRS, and these products all use the TRS microphone. So I've got a short section coming up next that explains the difference between them so you pick the right microphone to use with the product. Then I'll come back and actually do an audio comparison between the microphone that's internal on the Osmo Action and three external microphones. I've got an inexpensive lapel mic, which is something you might use an awful lot if you're vlogging. I've also got two Rode microphones, a Rode Video Micro, which is one that is really popular for vlogging environments because it's small, it's compact, and if you're using a cage with the Osmo Action, you can mount it right on the top and get phenomenal audio out of it. And I thought I would also really push the envelope a little bit and pick one of the higher end Rode mics, just to give you a feel for what it sounds like if you're using an amplified microphone. So that one is going to be the Rode Video Mic Pro Plus, which is a much more expensive microphone. Usually it's used in like studio environments or if you've got a camera set up on a tripod, but I wanted to give you a feel between the three of them because you can start inexpensively with the lapel mic and you can upgrade if you want to for the Video Micro. And you may want to push it up to the Video Mic Pro Plus, but you're probably going to settle on one of those first two. But again, that's a personal decision. I'll provide the audio and you can make your choice between the three of them. So let's get started on the comparisons first. So I've got the Osmo Pocket, Hero 7 Black, and I've got the beautiful Osmo Action in front of me. Now, if I compare the units, what I've got is sort of a long cylindrical type for the Osmo Pocket. You guys are probably familiar with that. It works really well. You plug the USB-C into the unit. You've got a 3.5mm jack on the bottom. You plug the microphone in here and it's off and running. When you're looking at the Osmo Action, they've dramatically changed, and I'll do some close-ups of these, they've dramatically changed the engineering on this one because honestly, the original design was to use a very similar cylinder like this to build the adapter. And the challenge there, and I'd mentioned this in a couple of other clips, is if it's sticking out the side of the Osmo Action, you've got this danger of you whacking this thing and cracking the internal printed circuit board. But even if you plug a microphone cable into it, you've got the strain of that microphone cable pulling on that internal connection on the USB-C. So I'm thrilled that they came out with a brand new design for this. Now, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. I'm lucky that I'm invited a lot of times to test things with DJI, and I actually was sent one of the prototypes of their original audio adapter, which looks almost exactly the same as the audio adapter for the Osmo Pocket. And this one never made it to market. It was something they designed and decided to change the design to something I think is much more functional. Now, I don't know if that was a result of me giving them feedback saying, hey, look, that's kind of goofy having it hanging out the end. You might want to have something where the cord hangs straight down or straight out the back. But this one worked okay, and I did a full clip on it. I spent 14-15 minutes in a clip explaining how that worked and doing comparisons back and forth, but that one never hit the market. They went back to the drawing board and they designed this product, which I think is an incredibly clever design. And one thing I do want to say about that is I totally respect the company that tries something and realizes through feedback that it doesn't work and then goes back to the drawing board at huge expense to them and redesign a product. So good on you guys at DJI for coming out with this new product. All right, let me compare that briefly to the Hero 7 product. So I know I've picked on this an awful lot, but when you compare these two, this is the one for the Osmo Action, and this is the one that's used on the Hero products. And I've beaten this thing up over the years so much because this thing is gigantic. It's massive. It's like Godzilla or Gojira, if you're a fan of that stuff. It's gigantic compared to this one. And I still can't believe that GoPro, with the brand new Hero 8 that just came out, didn't go back to the drawing board and redesign this one, because there's no way that you need something this big to squish all the electronics that fit into this tiny little package to have all that space to house that. I think it's just a goofy setup. And from an engineering perspective, having this thing hanging off the side of the camera, that's just a clumsy design in general. So anyway, that's the size of the one you need with the Hero 7. This is a lot more compact, and it's much more sleek in its design. Really, really brilliant design. The cool thing is you actually have the ability to pop this on the side, and it contours exactly to the side of the actual camera. So it plugs in nice and tight. It's secure in there. It's nice and tight up against the camera as well, so it's not sticking out the end like this one would, causing problems with maybe the cable breaking because of the strain relief. The two other things I want to point out about it, which are really nice. Number one, you've got this gold-plated 3.5mm contact for your microphone. So when you plug it in there, you've got a really solid connection, really nicely positioned on it. But they've also added a USB-C connection on the bottom, which means I don't lose the ability to charge the camera when I put this audio adapter in there. So I can connect up an audio microphone here and connect up a USB-C down the bottom to a battery bank or a power supply and actually power the camera when I'm using it, which is a really nice touch. Now, one thing I do have to point out though, which is a bit of a drawback, is this camera's not waterproof. You can put it in one of those waterproof housings and use it outdoors, but by itself it's not waterproof. Both of these cameras are waterproof, and they've got seals on all their doors. The challenge is, for you to use this audio adapter, you actually have to pull that side door off the Osmo Action to plug that in to make the connection. The challenge there is this is no longer waterproof. So if you're using it outside, like in the rain or in mist or in snow, you have to be aware of that. Now, if it's inside a cage, it'll give you a little bit more protection, but that's just something to keep in mind. Neither of these, if you're using audio adapters, are waterproof at that point. They lose their ability to retain that waterproof capability. So just something to keep in mind. It's not the end of the world. I use this most days in really nice weather. If it's raining or something, I just have to be aware of that. Maybe I put an umbrella up over top of it when I'm recording or something like that. All right, so that's pretty much the comparisons between them, and I'll do some close-ups. Let me do that now, actually, where I've got the three of them side by side, because, again, I know I'm picking on GoPro here, and I use their products. I love their products. They're good company. I just got the Hero 8 delivered. I'm going to be doing reviews on that as well. But you got to be kidding me with this. You got to do something about this, because if DJI can build it this small, you ought to be able to do a better job than that. But side by side, it's just obvious out of the gate how portable these new products are. And this thing is so tiny that when you bring it along, you're not even going to really have to worry about does it fit in the case. You'll find place in the case for it. And when I travel, these are action cameras, right? They're supposed to be with me all the time. If I have to carry something like this, which is a third the size of the camera, it's just way too big for me. So I'm hoping they fix that very soon with a new adapter. Anyway, that's it comparison-wise. Now stay tuned, and what I'll do next is actually explain what the different type of microphones are and show you exactly which type of microphone you need to use with these type of cameras. And then I'll come back and do the audio test and finally come back with some conclusions, because I've got some thoughts on if this is something that you should be adding to your kit if you're using the Osmo Action today, and I'll give you those thoughts at the end. So stay tuned now for the TRS comparisons. Now I'll cover some basic microphone terminology and explain which microphone you'll need to use with your Osmo Action audio adapter. Most consumer microphones use a standard 3.5mm plug, and that refers to the diameter of the plug itself. If you look closer at the metal part at the end of that cable, you'll notice there are silver portions and there are black portions. The black are insulators between the conductors, which are the silver parts. And the way the terminology works is the outermost part is called the tip, the innermost part is called the sleeve or the ground, and then there's rings in the middle. And depending on how many rings you have, it determines the type of cable you've got. So the simplest type of cable is a TS, where it's got a tip and it's got a sleeve. If you've got a ring in the middle, it's a tip ring sleeve. And if you've got two rings in the middle, it's a tip ring sleeve. Now, it may seem confusing, but in essence what that means is the TS is typically used for a mono microphone because you've got a ground and one conductor. The TRS provides for a stereo microphone where you have a ground, a left and a right, and the TRRS provides for both a stereo microphone and typically a headphone, and that's used typically on computers. It's not used for audio equipment. Now, the audio adapter for the Osmo Action will only support the TRS. So it won't support the TS and it won't support the TRRS. So you have to be very careful when you're using it that you pick a TRS mic. Now, if you find that your microphone has the TRRS kind of plug on it, there are very inexpensive adapters that will convert that to a standard TRS connection. What you want to use with your Osmo Action audio adapter is a microphone that has 3 conductors. So you should count 2 black bands on there and you know you're set. Now that I've shown you the type of microphone you need to use with the audio adapter for the Osmo Action, I'd like to do some comparisons between three common microphones that I use on a regular basis. I have an inexpensive lapel mic here on the table. I clipped that to my shirt so you can hear what it would sound like when you're actually using the microphone. And I have to laugh because I feel like I'm at some kind of weird press conference here. But I've got two microphones mounted to a bar to keep them exactly the same distance away from my mouth, so it's a fair comparison between the two. I've got the Rode Video Micro here, which is a very popular vlogging mic. I use that a lot when I'm out in the field. Really easy to mount it to a cage, and it works really well with the Osmo Action. The other one is a Video Mic Pro Plus, which is a mouthful, but that's the high-end mic from Rode, and I use that a lot on a camera or when in the studio. And what I'll do is actually record some audio on the Osmo Action first so you can hear what the stereo internal microphones sound like. Then I'll plug in the lav mic, then I'll move to the Video Micro, and eventually the Mic Pro Plus. And you can get a feel for what they sound like compared to each other. Now, my suspicion is the internal microphones sound great, so I know that's going to be okay. I expect the lavalier mic is going to probably improve the audio considerably because it's closer to my mouth. It'll reduce a lot of the background noise, and it's a great option if you're going to be doing vlogging where you're in close, especially in noisy environments. The Video Micro is one that I probably will use more than the lapel mic because I tend to have the Osmo Action further away from me. It's either on a tripod or I've got it at the end of a selfie stick. So I use that one an awful lot. Again, better quality audio there maybe than the lapel mic. And then finally, the Video Mic Pro Plus is one that I don't use out in the field with the Osmo Action, but I use it on the camera an awful lot. And it really does have incredibly good audio. Now, this is unamplified mic, and an amplified mic. So obviously this one's going to have advantages because I can adjust the gains up and down depending on what I'm doing out in the field. But anyway, I'm getting too technical here. Let me start the comparisons and then I'll come back with some conclusions at the end because I have a couple of thoughts about how this product performs out in the field. I've had a chance to use it for the last couple of weeks and I'll give you some of my insight. So stay tuned for the audio tests. Okay, now we've actually switched over to the audio on the Osmo Action. So I'll give you a little bit of dialogue here so you can hear how that internal microphone sounds. Again, to my ear, it sounds very good when I take it out in the field, so I'm very, very happy with it. But I will show you now what it sounds like with the other microphones attached. So let me connect up the adapter. Now I do have to point out that once I plug the adapter in, I can't use the internal microphones anymore. They actually shut off at that point. So I'm now plugging in the adapter. Okay, now I've got the lapel mic connected up and you can hear the quality of the lapel mic. And again, I'll check all these when I'm done, but I'll give you a minute or two of dialogue here so you can hear what the lapel mic sounds like before moving over to the Video Micro. So this is the lapel mic. Now we'll disconnect this and go to the Video Micro. Okay, now I've connected the Video Micro up. So this should be, I think, a little bit better quality, a little deeper maybe in the audio range. And I'll have to check them against each other once I get done with this test. We'll go back up to the shop and listen to the three of them against each other to see which one sounds better. But that's the Video Micro. Now I'll disconnect that and connect up the Rode Video Mic Pro Plus. Okay, that's the amplified microphone. This is the best of the bunch. It's the most expensive of the group. And again, I don't use this when I'm out vlogging, but just to give you a feel for what this sounds like, I imagine that it's probably a little crisper audio, maybe a little bit louder, less background noise. And again, there's a way to attenuate or amplify the signal because it's an amplified microphone. So I'm sure I could fine tune that to give me exactly what I was looking for from an audio perspective. But those are the four mics compared to against each other. Now I'll go back to the shop and take a listen to them and come back with some conclusions. I had a few final thoughts about the audio adapter for the Osmo Action, because if you've watched the clip up to this point, you're obviously interested in the product and you may still be wondering, is it right for you? Is it something you should add to your kit? And that's a really hard question for me to answer because everybody's needs are different. For me personally, having a $39 accessory like this that allows me to connect up external microphones to my Osmo Action is a no-brainer, because even though the internal microphones are what I use probably 70% of the time when I'm shooting, and they're fantastic for an action camera, there are circumstances where I need to add an external microphone, maybe a lapel or some wireless setup for a particular shooting scenario, and having this accessory in my bag and popping it into the side and adding that microphone really quickly just allows me to continue to shoot. So for me, it's a home run. Now, if you're somebody that uses the camera in selfie mode or you're out with family vacations and using it in that kind of situation, maybe you don't need the external microphone because you're not going to connect up a lot of external stuff. So totally up to you guys what you decide here. But for me, I guess the answer is it worth the money, right? It's a $39 accessory. I know a lot of people out there are saying, gosh, the $39 for a little piece of plastic. You have to remember there's a tremendous amount of technology built into this device to actually turn that analog input here to a digital output to go into the camera. There's a analog to digital converter circuitry inside here. There's additional power rails to be able to power this thing up externally. So there's a lot of tech built into this. Plus, this is such a specialized item, it's not used in any of their products. So I think $39 may seem expensive for it, but I'm telling you, it's a really good accessory and I think it's well worth the money. Now, there have been other comments on the web. I've been reading other forums and seeing other YouTube channels out there talking about it. A lot of people are wondering why it's built by Sinova. It's not built by DJI. Well, the truth is, DJI doesn't build everything in their drones. Like if you think about it, they don't really build the batteries. They have a third party build those. They don't build the chargers. They don't build the memory cards. So if you go to their accessory page, you'll see a SanDisk memory card. You'll see USB reader for the micro SD cards. I think the Drone Valley one's way better, but they have one there that works with the iPhone. Ours works with 4 different products. But okay, so there's a memory card reader built by a third party. There's a lot of PGY Tech stuff on there. So having Sinova develop this, I think is okay. It's sort of a cooperation, if you will, between DJI and another manufacturer, and the product works, so what do I care who builds it? If it works, I'm going to use it. DJI built one for the Osmo Pocket. They did build one for the Osmo Action, which I talked about before, but then decided, based on, I think, the physicality of it, it just didn't make sense sticking out the side, and they worked with these guys to actually improve it. So I'm totally fine with the third party building that. The next thing I'll tell you is I forgot to mention this during the clip, but unlike with the Osmo Pocket, when you plug in the external audio adapter, you get a little notice. On this one, you don't. So if you just plug it into the side, there's no difference in the screen. The minute you plug a microphone into it, you see the little microphone pop up on the screen, and as you talk, you'll see the bars go up and down. So it does give you an indication that it's recording. Having said that, they haven't really modified the firmware to take advantage of it, because in the Osmo Pocket, you have control over how much gain it's got or how much you decline the gain, so you can actually adjust between high and low, either plus or minus dBs. You don't have that option yet here. I imagine they're going to probably implement that in future firmware, so let's keep an eye on that. I have all hopes that they're going to do that. Another question you're going to have, I had the same question, can I use this on my Osmo Pocket? You can't. Can I use this on my Osmo Action? You can't. Can I use any of these on my GoPro products? You can't. And there's a reason for that. It's not like a standard USB connection, like a DDA converter from a 3.5mm to audio. Those are complicated things to develop. It's not like DJI did anything to prevent you from using that other stuff. There's just different firmware and different ways of getting the audio into the actual camera and how the camera software reacts to that audio. So maybe that's something they're going to do down the road, where you can use the Osmo Pocket on here and this one on the Osmo Pocket. But right now, if you're buying the Osmo Action, you got to go with this one. If you're buying the Osmo Pocket, you got to go with this one. And if you're using the GoPro products, you got to use that gigantic Godzilla-sized adapter that I showed you a few minutes ago. All right, the last thing I want to talk about, and this is again some of the comments on the forums and out there on YouTube, are around the fact that people don't feel this records really good audio. I think it does a great job. And for me, the basic functionality is, can I connect it up? Can I connect a mic to it and have that mic improve the audio? And I showed you those examples a few minutes ago. I think when you listen to those examples, the lapel mic sounded much better than the internal microphones and much clearer. I felt like the video micro mic sounded really good. And that's the one I use a lot for vlogging. I didn't notice as big a difference between that and the more expensive Video Mic Pro Plus. So for me, that's a great studio mic. I wouldn't take that out in the field anyway because it's big, but I didn't really notice a big enough difference between the two to justify the pricing. So for me, I'm ending up with a lapel mic or the Video Micro. Both of those work really well. But back to the audio quality, I did some testing on this, and I'll dig a little deeper if you guys think I should, but I checked it. Now, people out there are saying it doesn't record in stereo and the frequency response is really bad on it. I checked it out. It's recording at 190 kilobits a second, so the sampling rate is good. I've got stereo, both when I bring it into Premiere, and there's an image of what you see in Premiere, as well as when I run analytics against it. So I've got tools that I look at audio files for. That calls out the fact that it's an MP3 encoded file and it's got, it's got both channels present. So I don't really know what the scuttlebutt is out there about that. I mean, could it be better? Probably. It really depends on the quality of the digital analog converter or I should say analog to digital converter that's built into this little brick. But for me, it's an action camera. It's not some big $6,000 DSLR with a long lens on it where you've got to get that crystal clear audio. You're shooting in environments where there's going to be a lot of noise around you anyway. If I can improve the audio by adding an external microphone, that's all I'm looking for this thing to do. And if the audio quality improves with future firmware updates like it did on the Osmo Pocket, that's even better. So for me, it's well worth the $39. Again, it's a personal decision, but I hope you got some value out of this clip because I love testing stuff like this, and we've all been waiting a long time for this thing to hit the street, and I'm so happy that it's finally released. So that's all I had for today. If you have any questions about anything I've covered, check the comments below. Just drop them in there, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. All the stuff I talked about today, the accessories, all the rest of the stuff, I'll put links below if you want to go check them out. Of course, we got some stuff on the website as well if you want to check that out and support the channel. But that's pretty much it. Thanks an awful lot for watching. We really enjoy putting these clips together, and you guys have been very supportive on the channel, so thank you for that as well. And until next time, happy flying.